Hello there, World of Tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, World of Blitz, and in today's video, we will be taking a look at the final Blitz Fair auction rounds. From now till, I think, January 4th or so, there will be new vehicles added to the Blitz Fair auctions, and then that is it. They will be gone forever until next year, 2025, when the new Blitz Fair starts. So what takes do we have? The Object 268 version 4, VK9001P, 452K, Kampfpanzer 07, M4 Yo, the Pharaoh, and the Lycan. But here's an interesting fact for you. The Lycan and the 452K are both sold out. I don't even get it. I asked my friend because I wasn't awake during the time that they sold out. He said the Lycan was super cheap, which, alright. I mean, it's not a bad vehicle, especially after the buff to the upper plate. The tank's okay, but I'm not going to say it's anything incredible. I'd actually pick a Pharaoh any day of the week over the Lycan. The part that I'm weirded about is why this tank sold out. Why is the 452K already gone? This is not a great vehicle. In fact, it is one of the most mediocre tier 9s in the game. The Kampfpanzer 70 is 10 times better than the 452K, not only in enjoyment, but in just playability. So, for all of you who rushed to pick up this vehicle, you're probably going to be hit with a big old disappointment when you start playing this tank. The gun is incredibly inaccurate, and the armor is not nearly as effective as it looks on paper. But you know what? I don't even know what to say. I just don't get why people have bought it. So let's make our way over to the bidding page so we can see what have been bought and how many are left. So starting off, let's take a look at a vehicle that's about to be sold out, and in fact most likely will be sold out by the time you see this video, the VK9001P. This vehicle is currently 17,500 gold. It will not make it to 16,750. Do I think the VK90 is worth 17.5? Honestly, yeah, it's not a bad deal. The fact that you can buy gold so cheap this time of the year, and the fact that you could get, in my opinion, a pretty dang close to overpowered vehicle, judging that it has a lower plate that the majority of standard shells will struggle to pen at certain angles, especially if you're not running calibrated shells, a turret that is ridiculously strong, and in my opinion, the hatch needs a nerf on, and a gun that has crazy good pen, decent accuracy, and solid DPM. Yeah, the VK90 is obviously one of the strongest super heavies. The vehicle is a little stupid. It also features combat stabilization, which means if you're driving under, 15 kilometers per hour, the tank is super duper accurate. Overall, tank's a little stupid. As I said, I definitely believe that Wargaming should nerf the armor on the hatch, but apart from that, the tank's crazy good, and I can see why everybody's buying it. So that, good choice. Object 268 version 4 is the next most sold vehicle. I also do not think this vehicle will make it to 17,000 gold. Do I think the tank is worth 17.5 gold? Again, it's alright. I mean, if you have the gold and you want to get a tier 10 like the V4, it's not a bad shout. The vehicle features incredible armor, but only when directly frontal facing. If you turn the vehicle to the left a little bit or to the right like this, these sides become incredibly weak. People don't realize how easy it is to over-angle the V4. And the fact is, the gun is also absolutely terrible at distance. It's alright frontline. Like, if you're able to use the gun within, 100 meters of your opponents, you'll hit the majority of shots you fire. But the moment you're starting to shoot at 120, 200 meters, it gets bad. Really, really bad. Snapshots, things like that. If you camp in this vehicle, you're playing it wrong. This is a frontline TD, and you need to understand how to angle it and how to properly use it to do well. If you do it right, it's incredibly fun. In fact, I still pull it out time to time just because it is a super fun vehicle to mess around with. But in terms of survivability, it's really dependent on the user. It's a very good tank, though, if you're a really bad player. It's one of the highest win rate tanks because it's a tank destroyer that can play like a heavy. Essentially, you just have an additional heavy on your team. Alrighty, we have the Kampfpanzer 07, the Pharaoh, and the M4 Yo. Kampfpanzer 07, in my opinion, is absolutely incredible. The vehicle features 240 damage per shot, it's got great DPM, and one of the most accurate guns in Tier 8. It's fairly mobile, reaching a top speed of 60, and it even has good gun depression at 10 degrees. The only real downside is that it has pretty poor armor, but it's not like a Leopard poor. You aren't going to be able to HE it on the turret, because that's about 180 thick. It actually means that Tier 7 mediums might occasionally bounce you. The upper plate can also get some bounces due to the angulars that it has. But yeah, armor-wise, it's not obviously the strength. You're not going to get too many bounces, and you shouldn't be relying on the armor when driving this type of vehicle. It's essentially a Leopard 1 at Tier 8 with just a little bit better armor. And because of that, it's great. The gun is absolutely amazing. So if you want a medium that features an incredible gun, that's definitely this tank's alley. Now, 12,500 gold is not the worst thing ever, judging that this is the first time the tank has been sold outside of crates. I don't know if it's going to be able to make it down to 11.5, but obviously, if it can get cheaper, I would pick it up at the cheapest price. This is definitely a good pickup, though, if you like that type of Leopard 1 playstyle and you want it at Tier 8, where you can make credits, where you can have easier matchmaking. It's an incredible tank, and I would definitely recommend to think about picking up. The Pharaoh is a very high performer, and I'm not really sure why. It's one of the highest performing tanks in Tier 7, right up there with the Annihilator and Smasher. Personally, I think the vehicle is absolutely hideous. I mean, it's got a literal coffin and a mummy sticking out of the back, and I just hate that. But the tank itself has a decent autoloader. It's able to dump out a pretty solid chunk of damage, and frontally it has a lot of armor. Its upper plate's about 220 plus, and I think that's where it gets a lot of the win rate, is because unskilled players will shoot at that upper plate and bounce. Problem is, the turret armor is only about 200 mils, which means any premium shells from even the majority of Tier 7s are going to cut through you. Obviously, when you fight Tier 6s, it's going to be a stomp, but I don't really think there's any Tier 7 Blitz Nation heavies that struggle to fight Tier 7s. Heck, the Grave Digger fighting Tier 7s is one of the easiest tanks to literally smash their opponents ever. Finally, we have the M4 Yo. And by the way, talking about the Pharaoh's price tag, if you have the choice between a Pharaoh and a Kampfpanzer, I would definitely pick up the Kampfpanzer. But if the Pharaoh gets cheaper, maybe pick it up. I don't know why Wargaming made the Pharaoh so expensive. Like, why is it Tier 7, 12,500 gold? Doesn't really make sense, and that's why I can't really recommend to pick it up right now. If it goes down to maybe like 9,000 or 10,000, it's not the worst, but I don't know, 12.5 is pretty pricey for a Tier 7, especially when you can get the M4 Yo for 8,500 gold. Now, on paper, the M4 Yo looks pretty average. It's got an autoloader with, what, a 6.5 second reload or something around there, and it has 4 shells. Takes about, 15 seconds to reload the clip. On paper, it looks pretty mid, but in reality, it's actually a super, super solid vehicle. First of all, the vehicle features an incredibly well-armored turret. It's like 250 to 300, actually, I think it's like 300 mils everywhere on the turret, which is insane. Even on the back, it's like 250. So the armor of the turret, because it's an oscillating round design, it's super, super well armored. And while it does have a hatch, it's still very tricky for people to pen. The upper plate is very well armored, and it's got an incredibly good power to weight ratio. When you pair that with a gun that has great levels of penetration for a Tier 8 heavy, a camo that looks absolutely fantastic, and to finish it off, a gun that always has shells, it just honestly feels great. I can tell you for a fact, I have grown on the M4 Yo. It's just a fantastic vehicle, and 8,500 gold is already cheap. And judging that, my guess is the vehicle started off with 2,500. You're easily going to be able to get this vehicle for 7,500, maybe even 6,500 gold. And if that's the case, definitely buy it. It's a Tier 8. It's super cheap. It's a fun Tier 8. It's not one of the, classic Soviet-style vehicles where it's boring. It's actually a fun vehicle. I'll make a review on this tank maybe tomorrow so that you can get an idea of how it plays. Let me know what you guys think about the M4 Yo in the comments down below. But look at that, VK90s, they are dropping fast. Only 200 left. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and if you'd like to see more like it, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.